months now. So what I'd like to run through is basically the changes. If you've got any questions about FileMaker as I'm going through it, or if nothing makes sense, or if you want to know more about it, ask, but stick your hand up so the microphone can go around so we can capture what's happening. So the first thing I'm going to do is start up FileMaker 13. Now I'm going to use FileMaker Pro Advanced for the demonstration, but I think everything that I talk about is applicable to Pro. And if there's anything that's advanced only, I'll mention it. So trying to open a file in FileMaker Pro 13, you get this dialog box, open window or existing files. Pro 14, which being a Macintosh I can run both at the same time, I think you can in Windows now too, you get this Launch Center, which is totally different. You notice down here on 13 we've got a new button and we've got a remote button. On 14 we've got a new button and a browse button, no remote. When we hit the browse button, we still don't have a remote. That flummoxed me for a little while. It's a little annoying. However, under File, we still have Open Remote. So if you need to get to a remote, you can get to your remote. However, the Launch Center is much better. The My Solutions gives you all of your favourites, which you can put in there, or you can, and it's also got all of your recents. The hosts, move that for a moment. The hosts gives you all of the hosts that you have been to or that you have put in, and it also finds all of the hosts that are available on the network that you are on, and they usually sit down the bottom. Obviously I don't have any new ones here because we don't have anything running that is, we've got a FileMaker server here. I've got it connected up to FM13 server, which is my server sitting out in Kilsyth, and it's automatically popped up and it's asking me for a new username and password. And if I put that in, then that gives me all of the databases that are available on that server. But if you didn't have it saved in the keychain, you'll then get challenged again. If you needed to add another server, you do it the same as the old way. Just click on the plus button and you can put in, hopefully you know the credentials, you can just put those in there, which is very similar to when you open Remote and you go Add, same dialog box from FileMaker 13. But instead of getting this list now, we get this sort of list. If we want to put, we can also look at them as icons. I prefer everything in lists. But if we want to favourite any of these, and I'll actually do that later when I open up something and I'll stick it in the favourites and you can see what happens. So we're not actually going to open anything off the server at the moment. I'll quit FileMaker 13 because we don't need to have that. I do want to open something in 13. I'll just open anything. Yes, I'll open this one. Okay, so that's FileMaker 13. And the reason I did that is so that you could see the difference with FileMaker 14. FileMaker 14 has gone all iOS 90, all minimalist, and the icons are all different, and we've had some of these icons since FileMaker 1, I think, and they've now changed. So instead of a plus record, we just get a plus. Instead of a minus record, we just get a minus. Instead of a nice colourful magnifying glass, we get a stick with a round circle on it. And the same with the sorting, and they all mean the same thing, but they're just all flattened out and new iOS-y. And I presume it looks the same on Windows. I don't do a lot of work in Windows, but I presume it does. Okay, so let's get rid of FileMaker 13. So there are two differences, the way you start and the way the toolbar looks. The biggest change is the way scripts work, or the way you can do scripting. Scripts actually work the same way, but it's how you do scripting. It's now called the Script Workspace rather than Manage Scripts. And when we open up the Scripts Workspace, this one doesn't have any scripts at all in it at the moment, and we get a nice clean something or other. I'll click the plus, and we've now got all of our script steps down the side here. We've got our script, and we've got the steps. I might just go back to 13 and just open up the old one. So that's the old script manager, which is what we've got down here now. We double click the script, we get another window, and we've got all of the script steps and what the script actually does. And in 14, we've got all the scripts, we've got all the script steps over the side here, and we've got what the script does. Now we can do it exactly the same as in 14 as in 13. We can go and find our script and we can double click and it will put the script step in. But what they've done is they've recognised that FileMaker people are probably going to be doing a bit of programming. They probably know how to type. So they allow you to type the step in, and it gives you a list of all of the steps that could be. You can then select that step and then you can keep typing. So in theory you don't have to mouse as much. They haven't quite got it right in that some of that, and it's not quite consistent in that you have to swap back a bit forth, but there's no more going across to here, double clicking, coming here, do a bit of typing, double click, do some other things. So we could type if 1 equals 1, which is all the time. If we needed to do something bigger, we can click on the function and we can come in here and we can use the new calculation engine, which I'll talk about in a moment, or the way that works. The problem that I had there was I was in doing this, I clicked tab, so I'm out of that, I hit return and it's taken me back into that rather than taking me down to the next line. So I actually have to tab twice, turn that blue, and then it opens up that, which isn't nice. Do OK, which has got rid of that, it's not the OK button. So as I said, it's not totally consistent. We hit the OK button, so I'm in here, I'll tab again, that's blue, I've now tabbed and that's now grey, and I'm going down to the next line. How did I know that? Who knows? As long as you tab enough, you eventually get down there. Or if you get frustrated, you just click on the next line. Or you click on the line, and then you can hit the return and you're into the next line. So it's not totally consistent, and it's not totally consistent between the calculations. So if I want to write a comment, I just start with a hash, and I can now write a comment in here, down to the next line. What do we want to do? We want to set something. So there's all our sets. Okay, what I want to do is set a variable. So I've done set space V, and I could, and it's given me the choice of set next serial value, set variable, or set web viewer. It's actually sitting on the set V, on the set variable. So I can just hit that, hit the return key again, and I can put in my variable. Whoops, accidentally did return. That'll do. And then I could write whatever I want in here. That's going to complain dramatically. So we might as well come into the way the calculations now work. And it's a very similar thing. If we go back to 13, and here's a variable here, and there's my, that's how it used to look. So you could come into here and you could type whatever you want, but you've got no hints of anything. So if I wanted to write absolute something, abs number or abs 3 in there, it's not helping me at all. So we've got all of our fields up in here, we've got all of our calculations that we could have, all of our functions, including external functions and custom functions, plus operators and things in here. If we go back to 14, we've got all of our fields, we've got access to all of our tables, of which there are only 2 in this particular database. We've got access to everything we've got there. We've got access to all of our functions down this side, but if I write abs, I can now get that function. If I hit return, it's telling me what the function is. So, ampersand, what's another function? Get current, nope, it's get current. So it's offering me a whole heap of different functions, so I could come down and say get current date, and then it fills it in for me. And ampersand. So I want the field name, so I've started typing in first, and it's recognised that in that list that's available I've got first name, so I can just do that, and it automatically puts the table name in front of it, plus the field name. So this saves you a huge amount of time. You do still, well in fact, I think, what's my other table called? Postcode. So I can go for the different table, and then it gives me a list of the fields that are in that table. So I could go locality. So it's given me, I've started typing the table name, it's put that in, give me the list of the fields that are in there, start typing that, that brings it down, and put that in. That's actually a correct calculation, so it will let me out of that. Doesn't mean anything. And we can now come in, I believe, no, not in this one, in some of them. We'll get something where we can come in and modify that. So we'll do another if statement, else actually, else if. So we got else or else if. We can click on that button and come in and do it. I'll make it so that it won't complain too much. I can come into this one and do it in line. So if I've gone off to the calculator to get everything, and I found that I've got a spelling mistake, or I want to just modify it slightly, I don't have to go back out to here, and adjust it all, and then come back again. I can come into here, and I can say that that was a you still have access to everything. We can change the name of the script up here, and the star tells us it's not saved, the star tells us it's not saved, so I've just saved that, so it's now all saved. Command N gives us a new script. We've still got access to the old one, so we've got multiple scripts as tabs. And we can put whatever we want in there. So that actually saves a huge amount of time and lots of stopping mousing. The other thing we can do is, I'll just go to the other script. Oh, you'll notice that we've got line numbers. About time. It's only taken 30 years to put line numbers in. If we go back to Filemaker 13, no line numbers. So if we're doing anything, with a script with collaborating or with anybody, and they say, oh, there's a problem in this script, and say, well, give me a hint of where it is. And some scripts can be quite long. Well, it's line 453. Terrific. We can go straight down to line 453. We can copy and paste multiple script steps. So that's not a problem. They can be discontiguous. So I'll do that, and I'll put that in under here, and it puts them together. I'm not sure whether we used to be able to do that, but we can now. And that's really useful in copying and pasting from scripts. We used to be able to copy and paste script steps, but I think we can do a whole heap more with those now. So we won't run that script, but there is another great feature in the new script section. In Filemaker Pro Advanced, and this is only available in Advanced, we've got the Script Debugger. Under Tools, we've got the Script Debugger. If anybody is serious about doing FileMaker development, they really should have FileMaker Pro Advanced for two reasons. This is the major one, the Script Debugger. So you can step through a script. That pops up the Script Debugger, and then you have to select the script. I'll go back to Manage Scripts. We select the script, and then we make the script go. I've got some, I won't save it. And it pops me into the debugger so that I can step through the debugger and go step by step to find out where I've gone wrong. And it's rare, particularly when I write a big script, it's very rare that I get it right first time. And this is fabulous, particularly when you come into these things called loops, or when you forget to do an exit loop and you're in an infinite loop, particularly when you're creating new records. Why is that taking so long? Oh, 650,000 records, I see. Delete all records. So we'll get out of that. We'll go across to FileMaker 14. FileMaker 14, we don't have to do all of those stepping and things out. I haven't got the debugger going yet. It's got the nice little thing up here. Pops up my debugger. I'll save them. And it's brought me straight into the debugger, which is really nice. The biggest problem I had was figuring out what the hell these symbols were. That's obviously, let's go straight through it. That's obviously stop. That's actually step over, so I'm going to step over this. This is the one that I normally use, but it's a bit different to the old one. Where's the old one? Where's the debugger gone? Where is the debugger?
In effect, that greyed out, you know if they're active or not.
Yes. Yeah, well, they're all active, but yeah, maybe. Oh, there's the new debugger. I'll start the script so we can see it. So that's the step over. So you've got the script steps, and it's saying, OK, we're going to jump over it, whereas we're going to jump over them. That's the one I normally use. So we step into it, and we're just going one by one. And that's that one. We step out of it, which means if we're inside a loop, we're going to jump outside the loop and go to the next thing. Or if we're in a subscript, we're going to jump out of that and come back into the new one, into the new subscript. So that's that one. Got me. And then the final one is this one. Oh, that's go to. Yes, I use this one quite a bit too. So if I want to jump down, if I know that all of this stuff is working or I don't want to go through it again, I can highlight that, click on that one, and it'll jump to that. And then I can go back to this one. So that's, I still have to think sometimes on that. We can step straight out to edit the script. You can edit the script while it's running, but you can't save it while it's running. When you try and save it while the script is running, it says, this script is running, do you really want to save it? Or do you want to stop running the script? And you think, do I or don't I? Where am I? What am I doing? Yes, I do. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to put all of that in, let the rest of it run, particularly if you've got a few mistakes in it, fix all the mistakes at the same time, get right through the script, then you save the script off and come back and test it again. The disable script triggers, that's nothing new. That's if you've got script triggers happening in any of your layouts or fields or anything else. When you're testing, when you're debugging, you can stop those firing, which can be useful, particularly if you're changing layouts, because as soon as you change a layout, it will run the script triggers that happen on those layouts, and you may not want them to happen all the time. So you can turn that off. And this one over here, yes, this is the other this is the other major reason to get Filemaker Pro Advanced, and that's the data viewer. The data viewer actually hasn't changed, and the way you access it hasn't changed, but using the data viewer to find out what's actually happening while the script is running. So what this is showing me is that I want to do something with this field, and it's showing me what's in that field. I'm doing something with this field, and it's showing me what's in that field, and it's showing me the variable that I've created. So that's, what do we put in? We put in 3, get current date, the first name and the postcode locality. So that's just put all of those together. So we can see exactly what is in this variable. If we got that wrong, if we wanted the current date but a year in advance, and we wanted to see what would happen, you can come in and you can change variables on the fly. So we can go into there, and that variable is now changed for while this script is running. The next time you run the script, obviously it will go back to get current date. But if you've got a script which, for example, if you've got a loop and you've got a counter within that loop and it's going to run 50 times, and you run it 3 times and you think, yes, that's now working, you can make the counter go to 49. So we jump all the rest of it and come out and continue on the script. Or if you've actually done your calculation wrong, you can change it to what it should have been, make sure it works with what it should have been, and then go back and change the calculation for the variable. So the next time you run it, it is correct. You can't change what's in the fields. You can look at it, and the reason for that is if you've got something great, huge in the field, it only shows you the first line. So you can double click it and you can see the whole of what's in any field. And again, trying to develop without the data viewer is reasonably difficult. You can also use the watch. The watch is where you can do your own things while it's happening. So if I wanted to see what was in one of the other fields, so in last name, I could come in, choose last name, and evaluate that, and I could see what that was. They still haven't changed the space that we've got in these. So if I put, I'll just do this, and I'll put a few of those in that. And then I'll copy this and put them all in again a couple of times, and something at the end. If I do that, I don't get the whole thing. I can scroll, but I can't expand this window. And that's really annoying. I can't expand or shrink any of these windows. When I do that, it just does the middle section. And it's the same in a number of the dialog boxes. One of these days, they'll get that one right, so that we can change anything in here. A lot of this stuff, there's a huge amount of legacy things in FileMaker, and they have made great strides, particularly in the layouts and how it all looks, but there's some of this back-end stuff that they still haven't got to. I'm sure it's on their wish list, and they'll get to it eventually. Okay, so I'll cancel out of that. We'll get rid of that. We're in the debugger. Doesn't actually do anything, so we'll drop out of it. Yeah, so that's terrific. If you just want to run it, if the debugger's not going, which it isn't at the moment, and you want to run that script, you can do that, and that's run that script. I don't think it's actually done anything, but it's run the script. It's brought that forward and it ran it. Just to, so we'll set custom, no, custom, show custom dialog. Since 13 we've had the ability to have calculations within all the buttons of these dialogues. So instead of just having an OK button or a cancel button or just having to type it all in, we can do a calculation. So if it's so on the fly you can work out what the button should say. It might say OK, it might say continue, it might say cancel, and you can do that programmatically. I'm just going to leave it as OK. Save the script, and we'll run that again, and that's run it. So that's shown us that the script's actually run. It doesn't do anything, but it's run. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far? We have one up the back.
Michael, in the scripting for running this, can you do a go-to jump
No.
to another line?
No.
On the wish list?
Doubt it.
Oh.
That's called spaghetti code. Go-tos aren't good. Yep. If you're going to use go-tos, you'd be doing branching, so you'd be having an if statement, else if, and doing your branching in there. And if it's a big thing that you're trying to go to, then you do that as subscripts. So if 1 equals 1, do script. Well, let's have a look at it. I haven't used go-tos since I did basic. Just go to here. So before here, we'll do another if. And that's something that I get trapped with a lot, particularly with the if statement, is I've come up here with if, and I go if this equals that, and no. So I've got to remember if, then I do my return, this equals that, and that'll complain magnificently. So if 1 equals 1, and we'll click on that so we can get down, then we would perform script, and then it's asking me, it's giving me an unknown, it doesn't know what it is. If I hit the space bar, it brings up all of the scripts. So that's helpful, but then I've got to go to the mouse anyway to select the script. I might be able to, no, can't use tabs to come into them, can't use arrows to do anything, so yes, I hit the space to bring it up, but I've still got to go to my mouse to double click to put it in there. Bother. And you can't come into this one and type it in. So yeah, not totally consistent. So that's where I would be doing the go-to. So if whatever your go-to would be, it would have to be an if statement, a conditional of some sort, and you'll be doing that anyway, and then you pass that as a subscript, and then you would come back and you come in it here, and this would be show custom dialog. Yes, that will work. And again, FileMaker's not totally consistent. Sometimes it complains when you don't put inverted commas on, and sometimes it doesn't. It puts them on for you. So I didn't put inverted commas in there. It said, yeah, we know what you mean. But if I did, no, I won't go there. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So we'll do that. I've got no idea what the new script did. It doesn't do anything. Right. Okay, so that's good. So I'll just run this as a debugger, just so you can see what it does. So if 1 equals 1, I'm setting that variable. It'll never do that because it's else if. I've come out of that. If 1 equals 1, I now go off to my script step. I performed the other script, which there wasn't anything in it. I'll have to put something in it. Then we show the dialog box. And then we show another dialog box. So what I will do is I'll put something into this one. Come on. Get rid of that. So it'll actually do something. Come back to this one, turn the debugger on. So we've got our variable. If we look in here on our current, we've got our variable that's been built. It's all good. Come down to here, 1 equals 1, go into there, so it's jumped into the other script, shows the dialog box. I cancel it, which does nothing, because they both do the same thing. We show a new one and come out again. I'll do that once more. Come back to here. Do that once more. So we've gone, let's just run it through. We come through to the other script. You hear the dialog box, oh, we've got a typo in there. We go, okay, we come out. Now we're not actually in the other script anymore, so I can go back to the script editor, move this out of the way, and come into here. The other script's still running. Go into there, save that one. Now I want to see what happens this time, so I can come back to here, click on this go to line thingy. It's not go to step, or go to line number. Come into here, step through it again, show my custom dialog again, and I've got that. So if you've got a script, if you're doing a subscript, once you've come out of the subscript, you can alter the subscript, then go back into the subscript and run it again to see what it's doing. And we'll just run straight through that. Okay, okay. Of course, we'll just do that. I'm on the wrong script. We can put in breakpoints. So if you want the script to run to a certain point, if you know that the first 200 lines are working perfectly, you can put a breakpoint on line 200. It'll run straight through that, then it'll stop there, and then you can start stepping through, rather than having to step through every single step. Did that answer your question? Okay. Okay, now the other thing in the Script Debugger of FileMaker Pro Advanced is we've got this last error number. I don't have any errors in this script, so it's every step it's going to show me an error, a no error. But what I will do is put something into this that will show an error. Turn that off. In under here, I'll do a perform find. So within the new script editor, when there's options available, it either gives you the function to pop into the calculation dialog window, or it gives you a little gear and it tells you what sort of functions are available with that operation. So I'm going to find requests. I've already found, my last find state was find things in the Northern Territory, and I'm going to find somebody with the first name of that. Hopefully, there won't be anybody with that name, so I'm going to force an error. So it's going to be a person with that first name and they're in the Northern Territory. Now what I will do is right at the top of the script, and again this is a little bit annoying because you can't put a line in before the first line if you've already got a line, so you've got to put a line and then move it. But you can move them around, you can just drag them around, which you used to be able to do. So I'm going to set, error capture on. So I'm capturing the errors, and I can see when I step through it what it's going to do. So we'll, there it is all the way over here, bring it back again, step through this, go into there. So we can see down here we've got a 401 error, and it's telling me what it is. So that's new in Filemaker Pro Advanced for 14, which is quite helpful, particularly for errors that you're not expecting. Obviously I'm expecting a 401 error, and I've actually got a custom function. I've written custom function for a 40, which isn't in this particular database. I do a not found. So if I was going to capture that error, normally within FileMaker I would have to write get last error equals 401. I've created a custom function that is get last error equals 401, and I call that not found. So I can just say if not found. And I've got quite a few of those custom functions that I put into all of my databases, but I haven't put it into this one. Yes, so that's on that. I've shown you the new Launch Center for opening the files. Something we can do in the, does that bring that one up? No, it doesn't. I'll just go open, yes, get rid of that. We can now put custom icons into the databases. So if I go back to, I'll get rid of that window, come back into this one. From within the file options, we can now put an icon on it, and we can give it one of FileMaker's icons, or we can give it one of our own. And I happen to have one here. We insert that, and that gives it that particular icon. So when we go back to open, we can see that this one's now sitting in my recents, and it's got the new icon in it. Now if I wanted to make that one of my favourites, all I've got to do is click in the favourite, and it's now one of my favourites. I'll just close that. It should come up in my favourites. There it is up the top there now. And if I want to take it out, I just unclick it, and the next time I open that it will be out of my favourites, but it will be in the most recent. So that's all very useful. We've already got that open, but we'll open it again. So, moving right along. The next things are all really to do with layouts and how layouts work and how it functions from within FileMaker and what changes they've made. Between FileMaker 12 and 13, I think it was, FileMaker decided, or sometime between around 12 and 13, that they were going to use CSS as the language to make layouts look nice, or how layouts worked. And they've moved that along some more. We still don't have a huge amount of access to do our own custom CSS, but all of this is driven by CSS underneath it. Now I had one, just a warning if you've got some very old databases, I had one that was built in 2, I think it was, and had been moved up to 3 and moved up to 5 and moved up to 7, and we've just moved it up to 14, and they were using a custom font throughout the whole system, which worked fine in 7, worked fine in 5. It was a corporate font, so it wasn't something that they could change easily. We went up to 14 and it didn't work. Went back to 13, it didn't work. Went back to 12, it worked again. So they're stuck on 12 at the moment until we can figure out how to do it. And they've got lots of layouts, and I thought I could get around it by changing things and by changing some, by changing the themes. But they were using the classic theme as an underground thing, and it just didn't work. It's going to take quite a few hours to get it right. And they've got legacy things in there. They've got invoices and all those sorts of things in their corporate fonts, and it's not just the standard font throughout the invoice. They've got some is in normal text, and some's in bold text, and some's in light text. It's all the same font, but different weights of this font. And when we moved from 12 to 14, or from 7 to 14, it wasn't recognising some of those weights. So that's it's going to be interesting. So speaking of fonts, again I'll compare it to 13. We'll get out of that script and we'll get rid of the debugger. Oops. Rid of the debugger. Did I just close the window? Did I? Yes. We'll open that one again. And we'll go into layout mode. And I'll make this a bit bigger so we get everything in there. We can see in layout mode, try and put them side by side. Get rid of the inspector at the moment. Get rid of that and that and that. And I closed the other one again. No, I didn't. So comparing them, again, it's all lightweight. The icons are all different. These icons have been around for donkey's years. And we've gone lighter. It's still the same things. We've got our theme picker, we've got our field picker, we've got our sizes, we've got our information, our inspector, we've got access to the fonts and etc. That's all the same. Exit layout's all the same. They've just changed how it all looks. The big difference is in the fonts. Here we've got the font name. I'll just choose that. So we've got the font name, and then we've got the weights of the fonts. In 13 we've just got the, I'll choose that again, we've just got the fonts. I believe in the inspector, appearance, we've got, no, we don't have the weights in there either, so that's changed. If we go then, turn the inspector on here, we're still on that, we go into appearance, and we've got the font, and we've got the weights. And the other huge difference is that we've now got the five most recent fonts available. So if you're using the same 5 fonts all the time, they're always going to be at the top. And those are the same up here. We've got the 5. I'm going to use 3 in this particular one. Trade Gothic was the bad one. So you don't have to search through all of your fonts to find it all the time. They're going to be at the top. You can still jump down to them. So that is a difference. Another difference in the layout is that we now have native placeholder text. Don't have to do jiggery-pokery with conditional formatting, having text sitting on top of it or within the field, and then having conditional formatting whether the field's blank or not. We've got placeholder text, so I'll just put that in there. And we can also show placeholder text in fine mode or not. So we'll come back out into browse. This particular one doesn't have, we're actually in nothing. I'll do a new record. So we've got the placeholder text in there. As soon as we start typing something, the placeholder text goes. If I go into find mode, we've got the placeholder text in find mode. So we don't necessarily have to have these. I find often with placeholder text is that it looks really good until you start using it. Because if I took out the label, and I come into here, and well, what is that? Okay, I take that out, and that's first name. So placeholder text is, I find, is more useful for instructions. If when you've got a blank field and you want it filled in a particular way, then you can put the instruction in as placeholder text. Type the first name here, but you've still got the label first name. Or in a password, use 8 characters with one special character and an uppercase and a lowercase, and make sure it's your mother's maiden name. If you've got blue eyes. Okay, since I put placeholder text in there, you can see that there's a little box down here that's telling me I've got placeholder text on that. A new feature in 14 is when we hover over that, it pops up a tooltip, which tells us what that's actually doing. So instead of going, now what did where was that? What did I have to do? Placeholder, oh yes, that's right, I have placeholder text. We can just hover over it. Something that I mentioned last year when I introduced 13, one of the big things in 13 was this hide object when. And we can do a big calculation on that. So if this is greater than that, whoops. So if we do a calculation in there, we can see it there, but if we don't have this selected, and we're going down and we think, oh, what are we doing with hiding again? Ah, yes, there's my calculation. And that will just expand to fill up whatever calculation you've got in there. So that's really good. And then if you have conditional formatting on that as well, none of the conditional formatting has changed, but if we do the formula is we do some text colour, we'll make it text colour there, and I'll come back to the palette in a moment. We'll do fill colour green, and we'll do strike through, and do italic, make it look really horrible. It's never going to happen anyway, but we can see now that we've now got 3 little icons on there, and we can come into this icon and it will tell us what's happening. It's not actually telling us what the formatting is going to do, but it tells us what the formula is. And the last one that we could do is put a script trigger on it. And you can have multiples of these. A couple of new script triggers. I'm not really going to go into script triggers tonight, but when we enter that object, we're going to run that script. So we come out, and again, that's put a little icon in there, and if we do that, it tells us what it's going to do. So that's going to save time when you've got lots of layout objects and lots of things on the layout objects, and you think, well, why was that hiding again? What have I done? So that script trigger, I said on object enter, so when I enter it, it's run that script. I say, okay, and then I can go on and do things. And I could do something when I exited, I could do something on every time I do a keystroke, I could do something on a whole heap of other things. And you can do those all together. So when you enter it, it does something. When you do a keystroke, it does something. When you modify it, it does something. When you come out of it, it does something. When you commit it, it does something else. All sorts of things. And you can get tangled. But they're great. Okay, we've got a couple of new layout parts. I'll just drag one down here. We've got a top navigation part, which stays at the top, obviously. And we've got if I drag it down underneath there, we've got a bottom navigation part. I'll leave you to explore those. I haven't used them yet. I haven't needed to. I think that they will be fabulous, particularly for Filemaker Go. I think that what they're really been designed for. So you've got a standard top and a standard bottom on your iOS devices. However, what they've done is they've put in a button bar. Again, I haven't used it yet, but I'll show you what it looks like. It's apparently to get consistency of buttons. You can have as many buttons as you like, so they're going to end up really small, but we'll put in, I'll put in 5 of them. And while we're doing these with buttons, we can have a look at a whole heap of new features that have come in with 14. One of the new features is the labels on the buttons. We've now got a palette for them. So here's that's our first button. And there it is in there. So instead of having, at the moment we're in a button, we would have to go and select text, come into the button, try and actually get into there and then select the text, and what am I doing? We don't have to do that anymore. We can come into the button and we can put in, and we can make them calculations. So they can be calculated on the fly depending on what's happening. So if you've got a cancel, if you've got a find button, and when you're in find you want that find button to actually be a cancel button, you can now make it go cancel rather than find. So that's the second one. We'll do a third one. 3, I'll cheat now. I'll go 4. Oh, it says it's calculation. That's interesting. There we go. Now just to confuse things. Wants text. There we go. So again, a bit of inconsistency with FileMaker. When I type text and tab out of it, it says, oh, that's text. I'll just put some inverted commas on it because you're stupid. When I type a number, it says, oh, you want to do a calculation with you? What does 3 mean? Oh, well, I'll just write calculation. So anyway, so they're all buttons at the moment, but we could have, and again, this was new in 13, we could have a popover. So we can create a popover button. So we've got, 4, 5 normal buttons and a popover. And you can put anything you like in a popover. You can put portals, you can put other buttons, you can put fields, you can put web viewers, you can basically do anything you want in a popover. Except if the popover is sitting in a portal already, you can't put a portal in that. Because you can't have a portal in a portal. You can have popovers in portals, but they've got to be accessible to what's in that portal or the base layout. You can't put another portal in it. So within here we still have access to everything else that we would normally have access to. So with a popover button you get access to script triggers. So when the popover opens or does whatever we've got in here, we could have, when it opens, when you enter it, when you do a keystroke on it, when you modify it, when you validate it, when you save it, when you get out of it, or this other new one, that's more for FileMaker Go. It will do some of those sorts of things, anything that you select. But they've all got to be done attached to a script, and you have to have the script written first. So that's still a bit of a nuisance. No, I tell a lie. You don't have to have the script. You could write the script in here. So we've gone into here, we've written a new script. New. Let's do a new record. So we've done that in there. We can go OK, so it's done that. So we've done all of that on the fly. And we may or may not have a title bar, and again we've got access to whatever we want in there. and we've got access to the calculations, and we can do whatever we want in there. So, and we can put these buttons anywhere, these button bars anywhere. They don't have to sit in the navigation. They could go in the body, they could go in the footer, they could go in the bottom navigation bar. So if I stick it down there, we've got the bottom navigation bar. So it is sitting right at the bottom of the page. It will always be at the bottom of the page, no matter what. So that could be useful for consistency, having all of your navigation at the top or at the bottom. I'm not 100% sure what the difference between that and a footer is, header and footer, but there obviously is somewhere. Okay, so speaking of buttons, same sort of thing with a button. When we bring up a button, we've got access to the label of the button here. We don't have a calculation on this particular one, but we can do that, and that's much better than coming up to here, coming into here, doing that. So we just double click on the button and it gives us access to whatever we want. These are new. We can put icons in buttons. Yes! What I used to do is I used to bring a picture in and turn it into a button. Now you can create a button and have an icon in the button. They've given us a whole heap. Some of them are okay, some of them are not okay, but you can add your own. So I went off and did a bit of a hunt on the web. We'll go to that one. And I found a site that had a whole heap of icons that you could download. So there we go, a flash icon. We insert it, and there it is. We can increase the font size of it.
Can the icons have several colours in them?
Sorry?
Can the icons be pictures?
The icons can be, yeah,
Can
any...
the icons be pictures?
Yes, I believe so. We'll try it.
Colour and looking through, is it?
Yes, yes is the... yes, I believe so. Let me find a picture.
Anti-minimalist.
Anti-minimalist, yes. Yes, let's try, no, we won't do that one. Okay, we'll do that, we'll do a logo.
No, something,
Not, do you want something, so that's okay.
something picture.
A real picture.
A real picture.
Okay. No. It's not. Let me go to a. Let me find a PNG.
It's got to be a service type picture.
Okay, so it's letting me use that one.
Yes.
It's letting me use a PNG, so yes is the answer. Won't do JPEGs. Won't do JPEGs. We'll do PNGs. So if you save your images off as a PNG.
Yeah, there's another one, and you can change the colour. SIG.
SWFs.
There's another one.
TIFFs. TIFFs.
Sorry?
TIFF. TIFF. Okay. Yeah, so it's obviously not letting me do JPEGs. It is letting me do PNGs. I won't put any of these in because they're hundreds of megabytes. You're going to look it up? Good.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Excellent. Yes. So the answer is, if you want to make it photorealistic, you can. But you have to save them off as PNGs first. So within that, I would then, and again, this isn't new, but apparently it's better. Within the button, you've got 4 states. So you can have normal, you can have it doing something else when you hover, when you press it, and when it's in focus. So I would make all of those none. Oops. None. In focus is none. take out the border, change that. So we've still got our button, but when we go onto here, that's our button. At the moment, I don't know it's a button. If I come back into here, we've got this thing to say an action. And at the moment, the action is do nothing. Back on FileMaker 13, when we had a button, we had access to all of the script steps, and the very first one was do nothing. So it's in 14, it's defaulting to do nothing, and then you can ask it to do a single step or a script. So if we do a single step, it gives access to all of the single steps. Show custom dialog, and we'll do that, and we'll do that. So now, and the other thing is at the bottom we've got options and change cursor to hand over button. So that is what used to be here. So we've got that one there, we've got all the script steps, but it had to be, well, you've got the scripts or you've got all of the steps, and they've split them off a bit. Back to SVGs, yes. Yes, that's vector graphics. Yep. Yeah, so if you've got vector graphics, which is more graphical than picture, those will go in. The PNGs will go in, obviously, as a picture.
I think FileMaker can natively change it if it's an SVG. If it's an SVG graphic, you can change the elements of it within FileMaker.
You may be able to. Yep. Yeah. I personally, I would use a Illustrator or something like that to do those. I would use Illustrator or something like that to use to manipulate an SVG. Photoshop to take a JPEG down to PNG. Once it's in FileMaker, just leave it. The thing with FileMaker is once the graphics are in there once, they're available everywhere, and it only keeps one copy of it. So I could use that button or use that image anywhere, and it would keep one copy of it. Yep.
I think if it's an SVG graphic, you could change the status, you know, the hover status. Yeah, I can think of that. Right.
Right. Yeah. So if you've got a logo like my blue logo, and when you hover, you might want the whole logo to change to grey, or change to bright blue, and when you click it, you might want it to explode. Go to red. So yes, that may be possible.
Yeah, that's it.
I haven't explored that. No, I won't create an SVG to test it out, unless we have a huge amount of time left. You're going to yell when we have a break, I presume? Ian?
Well, how about now?
Okay, now's a good time.